Hey everybody, just want to do a quick video update for you guys. Here I am standing doing the obligatory pastor in his backyard video. Just I guess showing that I have a backyard and I'm just like you, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought a change of venue might be nice. I've got some notes here on my tablet. I just wanted to give you guys an update on kind of what we're thinking regarding reopening and kind of the ramifications of that and what that might look like based on the information that we have right now, which is not that much information as far as what's going to happen next. So today, this is May 8th, 2020. North Carolina has entered into phase 1 of a 3-phase plan for reopening businesses and other gatherings across the state. All of this is contingent on the infection numbers continuing to go down, okay? If there's a spike, then we could actually be kind of doing a dance between different phases. You know, maybe we're in phase 3 at some point and then there's a spike and we have to go back to phase 1 or phase 2. So we don't really know. We can't predict any of that, at least I can't right now. So I'm just going to tell you what, based on what we know right now, kind of what the plan is. This order allows businesses to open. This is phase 1. Allows businesses to open in groups of 10 or less to gather. And they're also allowing churches to meet in groups greater than 10, provided they're outdoors and using social distancing, masks and all that. Those in the more vulnerable populations are still strongly encouraged to not attend, to stay fully quarantined. So that's just what the state government has told us. And so we're in phase 1 as of today. And so the big question is going to be, I know you guys have lots of questions about, are we going to meet outdoors? What are we going to do? So let me say a couple of things first, and then I'll get to that. One, this does not mean that the pandemic is over. Okay, it just means that we are phasing back into reopening as a state. So the first thing we need to talk about is expectations. Okay, what all of as a church community, what our expectations should be of each other and of what it will look like to meet together again. You need to adjust your expectations to reality, not to whatever life was like, meeting together was like, church life was like before we quarantined. I don't think there's really any going back to that. Not exactly like it was. Whatever we look like in the future is going to be the future, not the past, okay? So that's a mindset we need to get established in our thinking, which is how do we move forward from here, not trying to kind of go back to some place we were in before, because I really think this event with the virus is going to change the way we do things fundamentally and raises a lot of questions that we need to answer. And I think it's kind of like, I've been thinking about 9/11. Everyone talks about post 9/11 generations versus pre 9/11 generations and how they're different. And we're still wrestling with how that one event, September 11th, affected our kids and how they see the world. This is going to be like that, okay? Maybe even more so than that. And so I just want to encourage you to not think in terms of going back, but think in terms of going forward. What is God doing in the church going forward? That's one. This is just how life is, right? Big events happen and it changes how we do things, and that's how this is going to be. In the immediate future, so meaning for the next several months throughout the summer, maybe longer, social distancing will be in place everywhere, not just at church when we meet, but it'll be in place everywhere. Staying at least 6 feet away from each other unless you're in the same family, masking up, gloves when it's appropriate, all those sorts of things that we've kind of all gotten used to, I think. Those will still be in place. That's just not going away right now. So this is going to mean for our church gatherings, no hugs, shaking hands, that stuff, which is, I hate, because I love that part of church life, and It's been very important to me over the years to make that a normal part of how we relate to each other. And the idea of getting together for worship and not being able to give and receive hugs, shake hands, that sort of thing is hard for me. Okay, and this is the new reality in the immediate future. Things like gatherings around shared food won't be possible. It'll be bring your own food type of things if there's food involved at all. One really difficult one is that we won't be able to have children's ministry, not for the foreseeable future, which will mean that for many parents attending a worship service, everyone, the whole family together, is going to be impractical. That's a tough one, because not only are we missing that awesome presence of the kids and what that does to how it feels to gather together and how important they are to us and us to them. It's just not practical because little kids don't social distance. And so that's going to be a difficult thing for a lot of parents, depending on their kids and their age and personality and everything else. Also, the elderly and the immunocompromised won't be able to meet with us as often or at all for quite a while. And so that means for the next season, large, very important parts of our community will not be able to be present with us, at least all at once. And that's going to be a tough thing. And so we need to kind of, when we hear, oh, North Carolina is reopening, we're in phase 1 of reopening, we need to think carefully about what reopening means and adjust our expectations and not just envision what it was before, because that's, at least right now, it's not going to be possible. The other thing we need to do, I think we need to be careful. I think this is a huge issue, going to be a huge issue, probably bigger than what you think it will be, which is the need to extend grace to each other, especially when we disagree about what measures are reasonable, what measures are not reasonable, like maybe you think it should be fine to have your kids there and running around and climbing over people because you don't think the virus is that big of a deal, when someone else really does. And you're like, well, I know that me and that family are okay with my kids touching them, but there's someone across the room who's really struggling with even showing up at all to any kind of gathering, and they see that, and they immediately think to themselves, I'm never coming back. Or let's say it's a first-time visitor who's not even a Christian who comes in, and they see that, and their ability to hear the gospel is compromised because you haven't thought about extending grace to people in that category of thought. And so these are going to be difficult things for some of us to navigate. Every person will have a different attitude and comfort level about reopening and how that reopening should look. Some will want to jump back in full swing immediately. They don't think the virus is a big deal, or they're just naturally confident people. Others will be very cautious and will attend, but social distancing and masks and things like that are going to be very, very important to them and a condition for them attending. Others will not even show up for quite a while because they won't be comfortable doing things like going to a small group, being in someone else's home, which is a smaller space, or having someone into their home, which is even more difficult. So if you're, it's absolutely vital that you deal with your own heart right now regarding this, and not wait until there's a conflict later, that you begin to adjust your heart attitude now so that you don't hurt people later. If you're not cautious, you need to at least appear cautious for the comfort of your friends. We're going to talk about things like when we meet together, there'll be restrictions, and you need to follow those restrictions, even if you personally think they're an overreach or an overreaction. Not for yourself, but for the comfort of other people, so that they too can feel good about attending worship with you. If you are extremely cautious on the other side of that, you need to be understanding of your uncautious friends, okay, and not accuse them of being reckless and that sort of thing. We need to give each other permission to say no to things. Here in the South, we don't like using the word no, and we don't like hearing it, right? But we need to get used to saying, you know, I'm not comfortable doing that. Thanks for the invite. Or, no, I'd rather not give you a hug. Or that sort of thing, and not forcing our perspective on other people and putting them in the awkward position of having to say no to us when we're being maybe careless with them. We need to be very understanding when we invite someone over for coffee, maybe, for example. Hey, maybe at Starbucks. Starbucks is open now, and someone awkwardly doesn't know how to say no to you because they're just not used to this new world we're in. And for you not to get offended by that. Some people might just ignore you when you invite them out to do something, because they just don't know what to say. This is something we're going to have to get used to. It's a new cultural norm that, especially in our Southern polite culture, I think we're not really used to, and we're going to have to get used to it, okay? The other thing I wanted to say to you is stay out of the dog fights, especially online. I think it's a great metaphor that if you've ever seen two dogs fighting, the last thing you want to do is stick your hand into the dog fight, even just to stop the fight. You don't want to stick your hand in there, because what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. You're going to get bit. Stay out of the dog fights. There is a lot of dog fights going on in the world around us about how serious the virus is, where the virus comes from, what a reasonable reaction to the virus is or isn't, whether or not the government has done a good job or a bad job, who's done what and why, and what you think and what everybody else thinks. And there's a lot of dog fighting going on, and it's silly. It's a lot of silly, meaningless, because it affects nothing, okay? It's a lot of stay out of it. Keep your hand in your pockets and let them fight it out, because you sticking your hand in there is not going to result in anything other than you getting sucked into it with them. So feel free, please feel free to have your opinions about anything you want to have an opinion about, okay? It's the wonderful thing about America. We all get to have our opinions. But please consider the wisdom of posting about it on the internet. That is like sticking your hand into the middle of the two dogs fighting. You're not helping, okay? Don't do that. You're going to get bit. What's going to happen is you'll compromise your witness. And my fear is that you'll also compromise the trust of other people in you once we start to gather again. Now you can do what you want. I can't control you. I'm just giving you good pastorly wisdom, okay? Is just keep your hand out of the fights. Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise when he closes his lips. He is deemed intelligent. If you want to look trustworthy and intelligent, zip it. So in our context, stop typing. Lastly, before we talk about what's next, I'm concerned about, especially in our elderly population, this idea that we tend to equate attendance at worship services with commitment to the church as a whole. Evangelicals have a church culture that equates meeting attendance with commitment to the local church. We really can't think this way anymore. We can't think like, if I don't go to church, that shows a lack of commitment or a lack of interest or a lack of love for the church or a lack of love for God. And certainly like someone just disappearing from all connection with other people in the church for a long time is concerning. But this idea of like on Sunday, if I don't show up, I'm not a good Christian, that has to die, okay? It really has to die now, because many of us are not going to be able to come to church services for very good, valid reasons, okay? And you can't get under like a false guilt or false pressure to come when you're not feeling well. If you're sick, if you got the sniffles, If you know you've been around someone that has the virus, if your children have the sniffles and have a cold, this is maybe in the past you would say, oh, you know what, I'm not feeling great, but I have a job to do on Sunday. I have to usher, or I have to teach Sunday school or whatever. I'm going to go anyway. That can't happen anymore. If you're in a immunocompromised category of the population, you're elderly, you've got health issues, whatever they may be, not coming does not mean you're not committed to the church or to God, okay? Now, I know you want to be there, and that's great, but I want you to just get that thought process out of your mind. We all need to think differently about attendance at meetings, okay? If you don't come to a worship gathering, it says nothing about your commitment and your love for your local church. It says nothing about your love for God. We want you to be safe. We want you to live a long life as our friends, okay? And we know that you love us, and we know that you love God, okay? We know that. We all know it, and no one's questioning it, and you need to hear that. Okay. I'm going to send out a survey today to Living Hope Church folks it's very quick. It's not very many questions. It'll take you just a couple of minutes, and it'll be confidential. I am asking for your name in case there's concerns or things I need to follow up on to ask, to follow up questions, but it will be confidential. No one's going to share it. I want you to answer it, and it's going to help us as your elder team get a feel for everyone's comfort level with meeting together, how you envision that sort of thing. Also, Heather and I are going to be calling around through the church lists this week. Hopefully we'll get through everybody this week. Please answer the phone, because we also want to ask things that are harder to ask in a survey, like what things do you miss? Because this is an opportunity for us to think about, okay, if you think of this as a fire of testing that we're going through, what things have been refined in the fire and what things have been just consumed in the fire? And so I want to know what things you miss. What do you miss about before? What are you looking forward to? Another way to put it is, what are you looking forward to getting back into when this is over? But also, let's be honest, what do you not miss? What are some things you are doing or involved in our church life that you've actually thought to yourself, maybe you felt guilty about it, but you've thought, you know what, I actually don't miss that, and I don't look forward to doing it again. I want to know what those things are. It's really important. And so I want honest feedback. Feedback that is less than honest is absolutely useless, okay? You need to understand that. It's a waste of your time and a waste of my time if you're not honest. There are things I don't miss, and there's things I miss deeply. And so I think this is a chance for us to reevaluate what we do. So that's coming. I'm sending out the email survey today, and then expect phone calls, okay? So what's next? That's what y'all been waiting for, right? What's next? Our ELO team has been discussing things. I'm staying informed from verifiable professional advice and credentialed sources, not your aunt on Facebook or YouTube conspiracy videos or anything like that. I've been on calls with 30 plus Confluence pastors this week, seeing what everybody's doing across the country. Confluence is the family of churches that we belong to. I've been talking to Jenna and Scott Goldston. Scott's a ER doctor, Jenna's a trained nurse. They both have a great gift of wisdom. We're talking to them about kind of reasonable precautions and things like that. They've been super helpful. Love you guys. Appreciate you helping me out. So there's a lot of factors to consider. Many of them are competing with each other. One, the lives of our elderly and immunocompromised. I don't want to be morbid, okay, but this is the new norm. This is the new reality, which is we have people in our church that we love dearly, that if they got this virus, it would likely kill them. And so I don't want to be morbid, but we need to be realistic, and that's a fact, okay? And we can never forget that, okay? I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to overreact, right? But that's a reality, okay? Another factor is the law, right? As well as the guidance of the governor's office, the president's office, and the CDC is super important that we listen to that. The counsel of other church leaders I've been listening to, the comfort level of our own congregation, which is what the survey is for, our witness to the community. We want our witness to the community to be that we love them and care about them and are concerned about people outside of ourselves. So the way we do things, the way we reopen is super important for that. We don't want the culture to dictate to us, right? To tell us what to do, but it is something we should consider, and it should be important to us because we need a testimony, a witness of love to the world. And this is a hugely important time and opportunity for us to do that, okay? And of course, above all, the biblical command to not neglect to meet together is obviously super important. So whatever we end up doing, we'll not rush into anything. If you're gung-ho, you're going to be frustrated because we're going to take our time because all these things that I just mentioned are very important. Going into quarantine was really fast. It was like overnight. We got online really fast. And so going into quarantine was fast. Coming out of it is going to be slow. And for those of you who like to move fast, you will be frustrated. For those of you who like to go slow, you might also be frustrated that we seem to be going too fast for your comfort. We will do whatever seems to be reasonable to keep everyone safe. Whatever those safety measures are that we implement in our gatherings, I want you to follow them. Please don't make ushers or someone come up to you and have to confront you as gently and carefully as can be about following the guidelines we've put out. That makes their job hard, and it's very awkward, okay? Please don't do that. So whatever those measures are, depending on what phase we're in, please follow them as best you can. The activities we were doing before are all going to be reevaluated in terms of, can we do them now or should we do them later? Should they stay online? Should they be a hybrid of online and in person? Those things are all have to get evaluated kind of as we go. A lot of what we can do online, we can keep doing online or do some combination. We are considering an outdoor event. Lots of you have asked me about that, since there's this, honestly, it looks like a loophole that the governor has given us for churches to be able to meet outdoors in groups over 10. So we're considering that. It is complicated to pull that off. We've got lots of ideas about how to do it. It's just which ones will work and how soon can we pull it off with a reasonable level of safety. That's the big question. And so my guess is that that's probably not going to happen till close to the end of phase one. Phase one is only a few weeks long. It's not very long. Or early phase two. I don't really know. I'm just guessing. Right now, I don't have an answer to that. The outdoor option was a surprise, by the way. Everything the governor's office had put out before this week did not include any churches meeting at all in phase one. So we've been kind of going, we'll meet in phase two in some way. So this is a surprise. Let's see. Phase two will probably include some ability to meet indoors with some restrictions in place. There'll be a number that we can't exceed, or maybe a percentage of capacity that we can't exceed. And so we'll have to figure out how to do seating where all the family units are 6 feet apart. We don't know what the cap will be. And so the question of, can we do multiple services so everybody can meet at some time on Sunday? I'll just be honest with you, we're going to try to avoid doing multiple services as much as possible, even if it means not everyone can meet every week, because it's just, we don't have that many volunteers to pull that off. And so we'll see. That's just a huge question mark because they haven't told us the number of people, the capacity for phase two. Okay. They just haven't said that. So we don't know. Don't have an answer to that. I don't expect, I might have already said this, I'm not sure, but it's worth saying again. I don't expect everyone to be able to meet all together again until maybe the fall, end of the summer, fall. By everyone, I mean all the parents in a family with all their kids, all in the same room, along with the elderly and the immunocompromised, everybody. So when I say everybody, I mean everybody, all together at one time in one service. I don't expect that to happen through the summer into the fall. And if we have more spikes, infection spikes in Forsyth County, it could be 2021. I mean, that's kind of worst case scenario, but who knows, that worst case scenario might change tomorrow. Okay. So I hope that's not depressing to you. I just want to let's be realistic. And I'm excited that we can begin to look at meeting again. That's a good news. And I'm excited about the fact that God is refining us as a church, refocusing us on what's important. The concept of mission and reaching out to our community with this food ministry is pretty incredible. And I think it's transforming us as a church into something leaner and more mobile and deployed instead of centralized in our church building. All those things are great things. I just want to encourage you to work on your heart attitude towards people who don't have the same attitude as you. Stop shaking your head inside going, can't believe that person is acting that way. And just begin to think about, how do I act right now in a way that will help me have better relationships and be a better minister of the gospel tomorrow. Okay, that's how I want us to think. And so if you have questions, please feel free to send those in to me. You can text me, you can email us, office@livinghopetriad.com. I will get those emails. Susan also gets those emails, so that's a great way to ask questions. And I'm not going to give out my phone number on YouTube, but if you're in the church, you can get that on Member Hub. And please keep an eye out for the questionnaire that I'm going to send out today and the phone call. And we'll move forward, guys. I love you. I'm excited to be able to see you again sometime soon. We'll see you.